The team you're leading just doesn't seem interested in what's going on. What do you do about that? Look for these three symptoms. Number one is the team is overall very quiet, unplugged. Number two is you, as the leader, you feel the need to over-explain everything. And number three is you just can't understand why people don't want to try harder. And what you'll learn in this video is that leaders need to first create interest in what needs to be done. Let's get into it. People aren't interested in what you need or what you think is important. And you're quick to draw the conclusion that people aren't as good as they used to be, or they don't care, or they're lazy. But that's usually wrong. It's not that they don't care, it's that they're not interested. And those are not the same thing, but often we treat them like they are. We think if we explain something clearly, then people will engage. But being clear doesn't always equate to making people interested or getting people interested, nor does logic. People are always asking themselves questions. How does this impact me? Is this part of who I am? Is this important? What do I get out of this? What do we all get out of this? Should I waste my time? And a big one is this just something that I'm being told to do? And that's what we're going to talk about and break down in this video. Practical tips on what you can do to help get people interested in what needs to be done. Because getting people interested in what needs to be done is more than being clear. It's about setting the conditions for how people think about what needs to be done. Hi, I'm Mike Targus, retired Marine and founder of Center Desk Leadership Coaching. I did 21 years in the Marine Corps leading teams and then transitioned out in 2013 to project management, engineering, and sales, and have been leading teams on that side ever since. So I've seen both sides, military and civilian. And I know what translates over and what might be useful to you, similar to the things that I saw in the Marine Corps. And this channel is about giving you the skills to lead the team you have, not the team you wish you had or the team you think is coming next year, but the people that come to work right now for you every day. The first thing is, we as leaders, a lot of times, we spend a lot of time and energy on trying to motivate people to change their behavior, motivate better behavior. Some of the things that you probably see, or feel is you want people to speak up more, take more ownership of things. We don't perceive our environments all the same way. Now, this is where priorities come in and core values and that kind of thing, and those help. But at the very micro daily level, when you're interacting with people, you have to realize that people are seeing the world and the work at hand just a little bit differently. And we don't always engage with things because they're logical, or even because we know we're supposed to do that. We're all pulled towards things that feel relevant, that we feel a connection to, that helps us, reinforces our identity of ourselves. And a big one is there's an element of uncertainty to that. It's not just a matter of getting people to take action. A big part of your role is shaping people's attention, because interest drives attention, and then attention drives all the action that's needed. We're interested in things that are relevant and not fully understood. That's that level of uncertainty. In other words, we tend to be more interested in things that are not completely figured out, and maybe not totally chaotic and confusing either, but somewhere in between. You think about that when you are presented with something that's just so bland, and there's no challenge to it because you know exactly what needs to be done. That's rarely interesting on a sustained level to you and I. Another way to think about it is, if something is fully known, that's boring. If something is not relevant, we ignore it. But if something is both personally, maybe a better way to say that would be individually relevant to somebody and not entirely figured out, that's when people lock in and get after something. And you can see that when you present a workable challenge to somebody that's aligned with, just generalize and say, area of expertise, you can really see them pour their energy into it. But it's more than just their expertise as well. There's something left to figure out. So that is what pulls people in. But it takes some effort to look at it that way, because a lot of times we'll see our responsibility to the team is being clear, yes, but we can almost take that too far sometimes, not leave any latitude or freedom for other people to finish the job or figure the rest of the problem out for themselves. But if you don't do that, then that's when you might get the impression from people that they're lazy or uncommitted, when in reality they're just not interested. So when you're communicating with your people, realize there needs to be a little bit of tension and uncertainty in there. Try to build that in. We're going to naturally, without even realizing this is happening, get pulled in to try to kind of make our own future or to establish the that certainty in the things that we're doing. We're scanning the future for what comes next. This is like kind of a survival instinct. What's changed? What's different? What's missing? What don't I know? Those types of questions are going on. Maybe even you don't even realize they're going on, but you're really asking yourself those things. Your people are too. So one way you can think about this is that the predictions for the future that people are making constantly, you want to leave a little bit of a challenge in there for them to overcome. Think about a good movie. You don't know what's going to happen next, but you're hanging on to every detail. It's the same thing with solving a problem at work. You got a difficult situation, a lot at stake. You see it as relevant to you. That's your job to be a participant in figuring out, finding that solution. You get pulled in, you're participating. Nobody's got to tell you to do that at that point. So think of it as productive tension. I don't fully know what needs to happen, but I think I can contribute. I think I can figure it out. In psychology, it's called the curiosity gap. What do I know? What do I need to know? And the pull towards what I need to know, going after it. But if that gap is too small, if you're leading people right up to the step, but not telling them to take a step up, that's not enough. That really doesn't motivate it. It's too much. That's too little of a gap. But the interest and attention, that's right there in the middle. And that's where you got to get a feel for how to identify that, how much is enough. You don't want to over-explain things, but you don't want to under-frame what needs to be done. Framing is, here's like the parameters of the problem we're trying to solve. Because the goal is you want people to think, okay, that solution is important, and I know that I can contribute. I should be helping find out what that is. I'm interested in solving that. And another way that we can get this wrong is that we don't appreciate that people need to see themselves in the solution. Said another way, they have to identify with being the type of person that should be involved in that solution. So, like an engineer is going to be pulled into a technical problem, a technical solution. They may not be as excited about presenting a budget or even dialoguing with a customer. On the other hand, you might have somebody that's a natural salesperson or a trained salesperson, and all they want to do is the interpersonal dialogue. They don't care so much about figuring out the technical solution. So those are two examples of how two different roles, two different people would identify with different aspects of the same problem. And another one to throw in there, which is probably more relevant to this video, is a new manager. What's a new manager's interest or identity in all of this? I'm new. I want people to think I know what I'm doing. I want them to think that I'm a good leader. And I want them to know that I can handle the task at hand, avoid embarrassment. So you got the engineer, you got the salesperson, you got the new manager. Picture all those people in the same meeting with entirely different identities. They're going to have different aspects, different levels of attention and interest. And this is why you can stand up in front of a team, explain something that makes perfect sense to you, but it falls totally flat on the audience. It didn't connect with the people, didn't appeal to their sense of competence as a person, as a professional. Maybe there was no element of risk or uncertainty to it. And the eventual solution, maybe there's going to be no pride to share amongst a group or at the individual level when we get the thing done. So, it's not exciting. So it could be completely logical. It's emotionally dead. Even if it's important, it doesn't connect with why people are there in the first place. You got to really look at everybody on the team. You got to know them. You got to spend time with them to find out how they see the world and what they think is important. And you have to deliver these messages to a group, but in doing so, address all the different people in the group. What does the problem at hand mean to me, or how do I see myself in its solution? Because emotion counts. It's not just the logic or the importance. We get excited, and there's a charge that we feel when we're emotionally connected to something, a problem to solve. It could be fear of failing, fear of not making your quota, fear of not making your bonus. It could be the desire to achieve something, so people see me as a good person, a good worker, a good leader. When things surprise the team, that draws in interest. Why did this happen this way? Wasn't expecting that. And what's the meaning behind what we're trying to do here? And if you read Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman, that's one thing he talks about, the system one and system two thinking, where system one is this kind of instinctive, quick associative memory where we assign meaning to what we're seeing really quickly. And system two is more deliberate, slower, higher energy consuming thinking. But we live most of the day in system one, and this is when we react to things. We see something, we align it with what we think to be true, we assign a meaning to it, and then we move on. And if you don't kind of force yourself to think of things more deliberately, it never happens. So you have to realize that people are thinking like that in your team. And if you can speak with and establish a connection to people's emotions, that's really going to pull them in more than just a detailed logical explanation. That's like a slower processing. And some people are like that, but you want to appeal to people's emotions anytime you can. Fear of failure, hope of recognition. What's my social status on the team? Do people respect me? The sense of belonging on a team is nothing to be underestimated. And if you're one of these people that just is more inclined to present facts, you can think of the big difference there. It's not anything to do with the facts. People, most of their concern probably has to do with peer pressure. It's so strong. So then the natural question you can ask yourself is, are you manipulating people by talking this way? And I don't think manipulation is the right term to use there. What you're doing is you are presenting information in a way that's going to be most useful at the individual level, and thus probably going to translate into being more useful for the entire group or the team. And to get a little more detail on the meaning side of things, people have to see it as meaningful, challenging. If it's too straightforward, they could get bored. But then again, the opposite of that is it's unreachable. So you think, I can't even try. I'm not even going to try. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. So you want to think of difficulty and capability in a sort of a balance. That's kind of where your communication message should originate from. How do I achieve both of those? And how do you adjust? So we talked about humility a lot. And humility is essential for keeping your eyes open. That's a good way to think about it. It's not being so confident in what you're doing that there's no risk of it failing. It's doing things in a way that you don't know everything. So, and this applies to communication too. So you present a message and you're watching and you're getting feedback from people, whether that they're understanding the message, showing interest. If you get the feeling that they're going to pitch in and give it their all. So that's a good question for you to think about. Does the team think that this is even possible to accomplish? And if you get the feeling maybe they don't think that it is possible, get a feeling about why that might be and try to clarify that, or maybe take a look at the goal you're setting in the first place. Because if something is perceived, it doesn't even need to be reality. It could be just a perception. If something is perceived as impossible, there's no interest there. People are going to totally unplug and dismiss what needs to be done. So how do people form what interests them? It's not entirely at the individual level. A lot of it has to do with the social dynamic, the peer pressure, like I was saying. And it's you as a leader. What do you recognize? What do you approve of? What do you reward, or the opposite of reward? What do you punish? How do I elevate my status in the group? I want to be involved in the things that kind of bring me up. And then conversely, how do I avoid embarrassing myself in front of my peers? All these aspects of the culture are yours to shape and deal with when you're in charge. If you don't create a safe environment for people to discuss things or say what's on their mind, if you react harshly to that, make fun of people, forget it. You're not going to have any level of interest in participating. So pay attention to what things that you say and the way you say them, where you sense that the interest level participation starts to rise. Think of the presentation, the communication. Is it drifting towards only what you think is important? Very natural for that to happen. Pause, read the room, get it back on track. And are people going silent? That might be an indicator that they see what you're presenting as high risk. People are watching for what the group reacts to, what you react to, and what gets ignored. So keep that in mind. You're always shaping interest. If you're constantly recognizing or rewarding speed, then that's going to become something that the team is going to gravitate toward. If it's accuracy or quality, same thing. If you reward appearances, then people are going to present things in a different way. They're going to present things that look good, but may not be the full truth or really what you need from the team. But if you recognize and react to organized execution, discipline, teamwork, clear communication between people, if those are the things that you recognize, that's what you're going to see more of in the future. So what does this mean to you and I? It's not a matter of simply saying what needs to be done. Said that enough. Think of your role as creating the conditions where interest can grow. You're engineering people's attention by making things interesting. So look at a way to tie what you need done to people's identity. If you're talking about document control, if you don't just say we need to do better in the way we control our documentation, you might say something like, we're behaving in a way that tells me this organization really doesn't care what the quality of our documentation is. So you're making people think about whether or not that's a reflection on them. Are they contributing to something that's going to reflect poorly upon themselves? And then the other thing you want to do, you want to create a little bit of a gap in the certainty of whether or not something is going to be accomplished. Instead of just saying, okay, the proposal is due Friday, you might say something like, we know the client is on a tight timeline. We know they've asked for the proposal on Friday. If we don't get it to them, what do we think the result of that is going to be? And then let people tell you what they think it's going to be, because that's going to force them to consider what could happen. That's going to pull them in to solving that problem or be interested in solving the problem as time goes on. Next, third, you want to make consequences of inaction visible. So if we don't, for example, if we don't deliver the equipment on time, the project has no slack in the schedule. So if people are waiting on us, the rest of the project, it's a 2-year project. Every day for 2 years, we're going to be catching up. Details that people can identify with. You want to make progress visible. One good tip on that is you want your feedback loop to be as tight as possible, as short as possible. So if you have the opportunity to give feedback on a weekly basis, that's probably better than monthly or quarterly. So if you wait, you may think that you're gathering data to give a better representation of what the situation, did it work out or not? But people are waiting to find out. Is what I'm doing every day making a difference every day? That has to have a short feedback loop. And then last, remember all the emotional importance there. If people aren't emotionally tied to the activity, they're going to drift off. It's not going to be interesting to them. You're not going to get your best work. But so appeal to their sense of emotion, social standing, pride, recognition, all those things. That's how leaders communicate. That's how we gain interest, and all that's pure leadership right there. And then don't forget that we're always trying to make certainty out of what's coming next. On one hand, you want a level of uncertainty at the beginning because people will work to reduce that. All those are just as important as the logic behind what needs to be done. And once you understand that, then when you sense that people are not interested, it starts to make more sense. And not just that, but the things in this video that I talked about, those are ways to improve that. Okay, so how do we execute this? Here's your 3 principles and 5 actions that you can take. Principles, things that you must keep in mind. These are not going to describe what needs to be done when something comes up specifically. This is how to think about problems. Does it connect with them personally? And how can you present information in a way that does that makes it personal to them? Next one is productive tension. Remember, if it's too certain, it's boring. If it's totally unknown on how we can get there, it's impossible. You want something in between, productive tension. And then number 3, third principle, show that things count, to make progress visible. Show people how they're doing. And then 5 actions that you can do on Monday or tomorrow. First one, take a task and see if you can reframe it around the identity of individuals or maybe the team too. Think about how you can challenge the standard or whether or not people are taking ownership, accountability, and maybe even the reputation of the team. Be careful, but think about it. Second one is be a little bit more Socratic in your dialogue with the team. Instead of leading with telling people what needs to be done, try to pull more of the solution out. So ask questions, leading questions. You kind of cultivate that sense of curiosity in people. What are the consequences? If you can, really paint out what is going to happen if things go well or don't go well. And then maybe at the end of the week, do something different in articulating, telling people how well the team did. And if you can do it in a way where it's not just great job, but something measurable, that's even better. And the last one, this is for you to think about, on a drive home maybe, is what are the things that you're rewarding? It's not entirely about what you do when something happens. It could also be what you don't do. So you could, in a sense, reward inactivity by not addressing it. But ask yourself, what would people say that I pay attention to? So in closing, let's just say you don't want to ask yourself, how do I get people to care more? You want to substitute all of that with something like, how do I keep people interested or get people interested in what's going on? When things are relevant, emotionally charged, social impact, those are when people's interest peaks. And remember, interest leads to attention, leads to action. So interest is that first part. And if you can do all of this, if you can focus on the interest, what you're going to notice is you're framing the discussion. Just think about a meeting. You're going to frame the discussion in the meeting a whole lot better. People will almost automatically participate if you can really do this well and appeal to what matters to them. Maybe that's the best way to say it. And it's not easy, particularly the part about over-explaining or under-explaining and where exactly the right place to be is between those two. But you know what? If it was easy, they wouldn't need you. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, follow along, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.